Imagine this scenario. As you showcase various houses to potential buyers, you manage to sell them a property that isn't listed by your firm. The question arises, who do you actually represent in this transaction? While it's highly probable that you represent the buyers, the complication arises from the fact that an implied agency exists due to the absence of disclosure regarding your relationship with them. Implied agency suggests that, through your actions or words, you've implied that you are working on their behalf, even though this hasn't been formally confirmed in writing. So, how can you prevent such situations? When initially introducing the read form, take the opportunity to elucidate all three types of agency and how they might manifest. Ensure that, before signing, buyers check at least 2 of the 3 boxes, each representing a distinct agency. Represent the buyer as the buyer's broker. Represent the seller as the seller's broker. Represent both the buyer and the seller in a limited dual capacity. If the buyers intend to engage your services to find a house, they should select either buyer representation or dual agency, and both boxes should be checked. Alternatively, if the buyers aim to purchase a property listed by your firm, determine whether you will act solely as the seller's agent or as a dual agent. Once this decision is made, guide the buyers to check the corresponding boxes. If you opt to be a seller's agent only, they should mark the box indicating seller's agent in the buyer's election box. It's important to note that if the initial deal falls through and the buyers still seek your assistance in finding another property, you may end up representing them as a buyer's agent or as a dual agent if they purchase a listing within your firm. While theoretically, all 3 boxes could be checked, it's advisable to exercise caution, as your broker may not approve. In such cases, if the deal doesn't materialize and you continue working with the buyers on a different property, a new READ form may be necessary. It is a little confusing how we all use terms. The listing agent is the marketing agent, and sometimes agents will call them the selling agent. The selling agent is the agent that brings the buyer, or buyer's agent. Now that you've fully revealed how you plan to represent clients, or if you choose not to represent them, and when such representation would occur, if you disclose this information when initially presenting a property to clients, you secure prior consent for any agency, including dual agency, thus eliminating the possibility of implied agency. The appropriate time to have sellers sign the READ form is when they request your services and agree to list their property with you. At that juncture, sellers should mark both the seller representation and dual representation boxes, ensuring prior written consent for dual agency if your firm sells the property. Sellers have the option to disallow dual agency, but it's crucial to explain that this decision would restrict other agents in your firm from selling the property. If sellers understand and accept these conditions, they can select the seller-only box and sign the form. Know that when you are working with the seller, you would only select options in the seller or landlord election box, and the same for the buyer election, buyers and tenant election box. Consider the scenario where a potential buyer discovers you on the internet and inquires about real estate. If they seek general area information without requesting details about a specific property, no client relationship has been established, and no agency disclosure is required at this point. However, it's conceivable to form an agency relationship without a face-to-face meeting. If a buyer contacts you through email or your website, business transactions could occur without direct communication. For instance, if someone from Ohio emails about a listing, expresses interest, and plans to visit, you may have established a client relationship. In such cases, even though you cannot discuss agency in person, it is your responsibility to determine if they are bound to an exclusive agreement. If not, you must address agency relationships by sending the READ form, followed by a discussion. Licensees must explain any forms electronically sent to clients, upholding ethical standards regardless of the medium. It would be a good time to explain the new rule regarding buyer-agent commission to them also. The Realtor Code of Ethics, Article 1, Standard of Practice 1-2, asserts that the duties imposed by the Code of Ethics apply to all real estate-related activities, whether conducted in person, electronically, or through any other means. Consequently, Regardless of how clients receive documents, you are obligated to thoroughly explain their contents. Remember that the read does not guarantee you a commission. You must have the BBA agreed to and signed to receive a commission. With regards to implied agency, here is a court case to take a look at. In the Wyoming legal case of Fowler v. Westair Enterprises, Inc., the court deliberated on the existence of an implied agency relationship. The scenario involved a sales associate affiliated with Westair Enterprises, Westair, who, acting as both the listing agent and sales associate, showed a property to Charles Fowler. During the interaction, the sales associate informed Fowler that he was representing the sellers. Upon Fowler's inquiry about potential defects, the sales associate recommended a home inspection, and Fowler requested the sales associate to arrange it, which he did. Following the inspection, the inspector sent a letter addressed to the sales associate, affirming the structural integrity of the house. Despite this, Fowler later discovered numerous defects and pursued legal action against the property owners, Westair, and the inspector. The initial court ruling favored Fowler against the inspector, but ruled against him regarding the claims against the owners and Westair. In the appeal, Fowler contended that the sales associate had acted as his agent by coordinating the inspection, although he acknowledged understanding that the sales associate represented the sellers. In the absence of an explicit agency agreement between Fowler and the sales associate, the court examined whether an implied agency relationship had been established. An implied agency relationship is formed through the words and actions of the agent or principal, rather than a formal written agreement. Considering the listing agent's explicit representation of representing the sellers and Fowler's comprehension of this representation, the court concluded that no implied agency relationship existed. It is noteworthy that, although the court did not recognize an implied agency relationship in Fowler, real estate practitioners should exercise caution to avoid inadvertently creating such relationships, often termed accidental agency. If a court identifies the existence of such a relationship, the real estate licensee would be held accountable for all the duties of an agent, including traditional fiduciary duties such as loyalty, obedience, disclosure, confidentiality, reasonable care, diligence, and accounting. It is crucial for practitioners to be mindful of their conduct, ensuring it does not lead customers to believe they are clients being represented by the real estate practitioner, even if customers have signed forms denying the existence of an agency relationship.